Good morning, afternoon, and or evening, fellow gamers. Today, I'll be continuing my series on creating cool designs for companions. But before we get into the video, roll the intro. Okay, I'm bad at segueing from the intro to the video, so let's just get into it now. Our first companion I will be talking about is the Kamikaze companion, who will be a privateer Gorgon since she is a close combat creature with many backgrounds with magic. The stats of this Gorgon would be a health of 2,149, the attack of 320, the resistance and armor of 23, the dodge of 130, the accuracy of 121, and an average movement stat of 4. Next up on the list to discuss is the epics that the slithery snake would have, and she starts with Cheap Shot since Medusa has Cheap Shot as her first epic. But Uriel, wait, how do you pronounce it? It's Uriel? Uriel? Wait, it's EU. Here, let me quickly Google it. Uriel. Okay, good. So it's Uriel. Everyone can agree on that. Yay! I won't pronounce it incorrectly. Wahoo! But Uriel, who's in the Smuggler Arena, starts with Relentless, but I believe they only have that because the Smuggler's Arena is supposed to be difficult, so they gave her only good epics for difficulty purposes. Anyways, now 'tis time to review the epics she can learn. And she can have up to 5 epics, and she can learn Cheap Shot 3, Relentless 3, Blade Storm 2, First Strike 2, and Repel Borders 2. Now, it's time to talk about her powers, which are her gimmicks, and 5 out of 6 specialties of my companions I created are their powers already, and for this video, it's 1 out of 1 so far. When I mentioned how she was a Kamikaze companion, I meant this. She has insane stats as you saw before, but she has an unremovable talent that removes 5% of her health every turn. It's a trade-off. High stats, but she has her health drained every turn. And she has 2 other powers being Epic Strike and Ruse. She has Epic Strike because Epic Strike is a very basic power, and I believe most companions should have it, and it's useful. And she also has Ruse to recover drained health. The best setup for her would easily be Cheap Shot 1, Relentless 2, and Blade Storm 2 to basically chain opponents. A good counter to her would be a Musketeer with Overwatch 3, and that's because it'll lower her accuracy, so her health just ends up draining with all the attacks missing, and the Musketeer will easily be able to crit her. And that's all I have to say about the Kamikaze companion. And the next one is one of my favorites, and has a similar concept to the Infinite Range companion, and that companion is the Infinite Movement companion. The companion that would fit the skill the most would be the Swashvulture Plunderer, and it would have the health stat of 2069, the weapon power of 349, the resistance of 0, the armor of 16, the dodge of 134, the accuracy of 119, and a movement stat of infinite. Overall, it's an average Swash with higher attack but lower dodge, and it's time for his epics, and he begins with the good epic being Riposte. He can have up to 6 epics, and can get Riposte 3, V-Strike 3, Relentless 2, Blade Storm 2, and First Strike 2, and Flankings 2. Again, yay! An actually good epic pool! That's a shocker! Now, it's time for the epic setup I'd give him, and that would be Riposte 2, Relentless 2, and Blade Storm 2 to chain opponents and counter opponents by dodging their attacks. Also, I really wish I could give him Riposte 3 because it's only one more epic away, and it's a common setup, and it'll also give him a dodge boost, but sadly no, there's only one promotion, and I feel really unfulfilled. The next thing I'll be talking about is his powers, and he has Swashbuckler Strike pre-promo, and he has Swashbuckler Stab post-promo. To finish off to talk about the Vulture Plunger, it's time to talk about his counter, and that would be a companion that wants the opponent to approach. The best companions I see here to counter him would be Barnabas or Ratbeard. This is because they would buff round 1, and then the Vulture approaches since that's his main thing, and then Barnabas and Ratbeard each have a separate setup to counter approachers. So once the Vulture Plunderer is next to him, they'll have their dodge lowered, and then they'll get stunned by Barnabas's V-Strike, or Ratbeard will lower the Vulture's accuracy using Repel Borders 3. Then he'd eventually be defeated because he can't chain Barnabas since he's stunned, or because he would never be able to hit Ratbeard because he would repeatedly repel border him by running away. That's the end for the second companion, and the third companion I'll be talking about is the companion with the guaranteed dodge, and that would be a Buck Skeleton Hoplite. And yes, I know, 3 Aquilin companions in a row. You must be tired of the Aquilin music in the background, but this is because Aquilin gives such a little amount of companions, and they have a bunch of really cool models. He has the health stat of 2,329, an attack stat of 257, the resistance of 0, an armor of 86, a dodge of 127, an accuracy of 115, and a movement stat of 4. Basically, his stats are a mix between a Swash and a Buck, which doesn't exist for some reason, but it's a pretty cool concept. Anyways, it's time to review his epics, and he can have up to 6 epics, and sadly starts with Cheap Shot, but I think I have a new strat with him, but I'll talk about that after I review his epics. He has Tide 1 or Tide 2 depending on the promo, and can learn Cheap Shot 3, Bladestorm 3, Riposte 3, First Strike 2, and Flanking 2. And as you see, he has a terrible epic pool, but he can actually be very fun. If you don't know what Cheap Shot 3 does, it has a 35% chance to immobilize the opponent and keep them from running away. I'll be talking about it soon, but I need to talk about his powers, and it's also his specialty, because I can't come up with anything creative that doesn't rely on powers, and doesn't have to rely on infinite range or movement. He has the Powers block in Epic Strike pre-promo, and gets 2 blocks in Mega Strike post-promo. And yes, I created block as a new power, and it guarantees infinite dodges for 1 turn, and epics can apply during this. So now you basically know what I'm going to say next, and that would be his epics. And he'd have Cheap Shot 3, Riposte 2, and Bladestorm 1. The purpose of why he has this is because he would approach someone and then lock them by using Cheap Shot, immobilizing them, and then using block to just wait there. Then he'd have the chance to counter the opponent if they're a melee component, while the opponent can attempt a retreat, which may work, but this isn't actually that much of a problem for any ranged companions. And if you have ranged companion on the team with this companion, things would get very, very, very bad for the opponent. So yeah, he can be fun, but he has some counters, being any ranged opponent, because the Hoplite blocking them wouldn't really matter because they can attack others, while the Skeleton Hoplite is wasting its blocks. Onwards to the 4th on the list, and that would be one of my favorite companions I created so far, and it was an idea I made for the first video, but moved it here since I didn't have enough time to finish and flesh out his character. That companion I was just talking about is the hazard-based companion, being the Radical Fox. The Radical Fox would have the health stat of 2,377, an attack stat of 240, a resistance of 49, an armor of 0, a dodge of 95, an accuracy of 140, a movement stat of 4, and a range of 4/5/6, depending on which promotion it's on. The next thing about the Radical Fox is his epics, and he can have up to 7 epics, and he starts with a sadly sucky epic of Crossfire. I mean, who thinks this epic is a good epic? It honestly sucks a lot. Anyhow, the epic pool he can learn from is Crossfire 3, Double Tap 3, Quick Draw 3, Burst Fire 2, and True Grit 2. Now, the epics I'd give him would be the Chain Epics Burst Fire 2, and Double Tap 2, and Quick Draw 2 to deal with Musketeers, plus he doesn't have any good epics besides that, and he still has the sucky epic Crossfire. I bet you'll guess what I'll say next, and yes, his specialty is indeed his powers. His pre-promo has Claw Trap and Hail Cannonballs, his first promo has Bear Trap and Tempest of Torpedoes, his last promo has Scatter Spikes, Power Monkey Palisade, and the worst power of all, Raise Barricades. So basically, he's absolutely obnoxious if you're a melee companion, but a counter to him would obviously be a Swash because they have Alert, reducing trap damage, and usually have a lot of movement stats to quickly approach the Fox and one-shot him. To finish it off, we are going to need to talk about, again, a companion that I really love, and that would be the Technical Chain User, and the model that would perfectly match this one is one of my favorite unused models, and that would be the Bulldog Jailer. The stats he'd have would be a health of 2,721, an attack stat of 229, a resistance of 0, an armor of 103, a dodge of 98, and an accuracy of 121, plus the movement stat of 4. The next thing on the list I need to talk about the Bulldog Jailer is his epics, and he can learn up to 5 epics, and he starts with Vengeance Strike. He has Tide 1, and can learn Vengeance Strike 3, Blade Storm 3, Cheap Shot 3, Second Chance 2, and Repel Borders 2. Yay! He starts with a good epic and has a good epic pool. Nay, he can only have 5 epics. And that's my overall thoughts on his epics in a nutshell. The best setup I believe he would have would be Vengeance Strike 3, Repel Borders 1, and Cheap Shot 1. And this will soon make sense because of his powers, make his epic sense. And wow, I actually put a good segue in my script. What a shocker. Sorry, that was a bit off track, but now it's time for his specialties, his powers, and my god, you're probably getting annoyed about the fact that I'm saying that so damn much times. All of the power he has are powers that I came up with, and they're called Chain Pull, Chain Push, and Chain Spin, and I'll be explaining what each one of them do right now. Chain Pull is an attack that deals a crit in a 9-directional circle, and it pulls the opponent straight to the user, and this causes a giant explanation because there are a crap ton of technicalities I need to explain. First off, the power has infinite range and can only be blocked by unbreakable objects such as walls, and if an opponent gets dragged through stage hazards, the stage hazards do apply, and the Bulldog Jailer and the Fox Radical would be a dynamic duo to say the least. Epics also apply during this situation, and if they go through breakable objects, they will have the exact same damage dealt to the opponent as the breakable object's health, and if there is an opponent or companion in the way, they would also be dragged. Now, for Chain Push, it does the exact same thing as Chain Pull, but pushes the opponent away until they can't move anymore, and epics again apply. And basically that's why he has Repel Borders and Cheap Shot, to get an extra hit while using these powers. The last power I want to talk about is Chain Spin, where he spins in a 4-movement circle chain spin, and deals crit damage to every square, destroying every breakable object, and launching opponents working just like Chain Push. So, a good counter to him would obviously be a companion that can boost round 1, because it means that when they are pulled towards him, they are already boosted and ready destroyed, or Chantel, since she has Sniper Shot, meaning she can always hit him. That's all for today, and there are only 10 companion rough drafts I have left to review, and hopefully this video made you, the viewer, happy, and also, roll the outro.